And hello everyone, welcome to the Trekyards Mission Briefing, your weekly dose. Although this week, as you know, it's Connie week, and it's not weekly, it's specials. So many Connies, so little time. Hope you guys are enjoying it. And we've got another fun one for you today. Stuart, take us into this Connie. If it's a Connie. Is it a Connie? I don't know.
It is a Connie, and it's one that is very cool. It's kind of like a NX stylish Connie. It's got the kind of NX hull plating, nacelle end caps, and it looks beautiful. I think it'd be a great evolution, assuming that Enterprise was part of the original Prime timeline. But there's also a version of it called the Confederation class, and it's got more of an NXy hull, but we'll kind of look at that at the end of this one. But a great ship overall, and I like it.
And do you remember when you first saw this? I actually do remember when I first saw this, ironically. Any ideas?
I used to have a phone game that I played that had Star Trek NX class ships, and this was one of the ones you could pick from, and it was like you move back and forth on the bottom of the screen and shoot asteroids and Suliban ships and things. I can't remember the name of the game. I can't find it for the life of me, but yeah, that's when I first saw it. I thought it was very cool, actually. There's one thing I would change, but we'll get into that.
Okay. I remember seeing this was when we started Trekyards, and we were doing the Doug Drexler, talking to him, and he said, go over to my profile to take all the pictures of the NX. And I started looking through all his pictures, taking all the pictures off, and he had this picture in his profile, just in his folder somewhere, just like variants, fun things. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really nice iteration. I mean, this to me is the Enterprise is only vaguely a TOS prequel. It's a TOS prequel, but based on modern technology, which makes it more of a us in the future, as opposed to a TOS prequel. This is a NX-01 era sequel. If the Connie didn't exist, if the technology level kept increasing the way it was, this would be what the Connie would look like. I mean, 100%. I mean, this is really excellent. And I think, well, it is literally just a Connie, but with, I honestly think this is just a photoshopped picture, given that I know the NX model quite well, done by Pierre Droulet, and, those, there are authors available on Drex files or, and things, and the source is identical. I mean, a lot of these views are identical, these pieces, and they just cleverly photoshopped the rest of it, I think. But it's cool, and I think this would have done well to have been a ship in that era, but then it would have been there's literally no evolution to the Constitution class, because it's just a case of repaint it. That said, this could have been the prototype, the original, and then they repaint it, but the gap between the two eras is too great for that to make sense. But conceptually, it's very cool.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the hull plating is what really sets it up. If you put this in white, like the white TOS style hull plating, I think there would be no real tie into the NX-01 era. That's the main call out for me, and the nacelles, of course. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic design. I have a few little problems with it. First of all, I would like straight struts on this one. The way they're angled, I mean, they should widen a little bit at the top, like the refit does. Then I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it. It just looks kind of... It doesn't look bad. Don't get me wrong. I just think straight struts would look a little bit better on this one.
Well, it's the NX-01 struts. Hence why.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
The other issue is... Well, it's not really an issue, because it looks sexy as hell. Is the secondary hull is the refit design. It's not the sharp cutout like the TOS Connie does. But I think it's fine. But I would like to see a version of this with the TOS style secondary hull.
I think what they did is they took a refit body and they photoshopped it grey and did the panel lines. I mean, there's some clearly cloned elements here. Again, this is one of those strange ones, but it works, so it's worth talking about. But I made some more pictures. This is really the only three we've got available. But the next picture is actually a comparison to see how the details actually evolve scale-wise and things, because this is, again, the NX refit is not canon. Don't think of it as canon, but it's sort of fan canon. I think we all, for the most part, think, yeah. So we
It's
take that
fa-
into account.
It's fine fan cannon designed by the actual designer of the NX-01.
Yes.
So I mean, it's very much more canon than everything else we look at that's fan created. So,
Yep. But it's interesting looking at does this look like a development to you?
absolutely, it does. Yes, yes, it does. Just getting rid of the pontoons just basically makes the ship what it is there, and just upscaled a little bit. So, yeah, I think it's a fantastic redesign.
Yeah, and it. What do you think about it now compared to the Constitution class itself? I mean, does that look more advanced? And if so, why? If not, why? I mean,
I don't think it looks more advanced. I think the smooth hull plating on the TOS Connie is what makes that look so advanced to me. As we've discussed that before, it's the simplicity of TOS that makes it look advanced. And Matt Jeffries, he did that because he thinks all the serviceable areas of the ship should be accessible from inside the ship, as for safety. So not a lot of greeblies and panels and stuff. And we've seen that in Enterprise, where they have to go outside the ship to shut off the plasma to the one impulse engine, and it was very dangerous. And but yeah, as far as being in the Enterprise timeline, I think this would have been a fantastic evolution up to the NX-01.
So the NX refit was season 5, and this was season 7.
Sure,
if we'd got them,
maybe
because it is kind of interesting progression. I'll tell you what I think and how I can sort of if take this as retconned in. This is how I visualize it. So the NX-01 is that first go out into the galaxy, right? It is what it is. It's got all functional pieces, but there isn't much living area because it's just the saucer. The next refit comes in. They refine everything about the NX. You've got the new nacelles. You've got the new hull plating, secondary hull, extra engineering. Everything's pushed, but still the same space frame. You give it another 20, 30 years, they say, we've got this idea to push that even forward, even further. We're going to make secondary hull a really important part. We don't need the pontoons. Everything's much more whatever. We've got the more powerful warp coils, which need to be, need the extra, ventilation from being open to space. That's a big deal, and they're bigger. But we still have the old designer of the NX still designing this ship as well. Hence, you have a similar pieces for the saucer. But if you look at how the secondary hull is, it's actually very different to the Connie, the actual main one. Then if you break that down, you actually see how different the two ships are. Obviously, the shape's the same in the sense of secondary hull, primary, but look at the two saucers. The Connie is completely different. I mean, all curves are different. It's got different elements, different focuses. The neck is 100% different. The secondary hull is, again, every element is actually different. And then you push, so it's as if I'm saying, right, we used our NX knowledge to iterate. They said, and then 20 years later said, let's now make a scratch-built new ship for a new time with new designers, hence the new look. That's why everything is different, but a successful configuration, but all the shapes are now what they should be if it was scratch-built. What do you think? It's quite a long story.
That is a long story, but I agree with absolutely everything. And going back to what you're saying about the secondary hull, when they did the NX-01 refit, a lot of the engineering and deflector control went into the secondary hull, and that frees up a lot of room in your saucer. And that would be why they progressed to this design, because you want more living space, you want more crew, so you can get rid of the pontoons, all that extra engineering crap in the saucer. You can move that down, and you don't need that front deflector in your saucer anymore. So it does free up a lot of room in the saucer to do that. And yeah, I think what you were saying about how this is the getting rid of the pontoons and all that and making the secondary hull more important is exactly right. Even putting the shuttle bay down there also frees up a lot of room in your saucer section as well. And like a lot of physical space, you know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. And going back to the shapes there that you said were different, it is just a refit. But that's fine. I think it looks great. I do have one question, however. You know, on the refit, how it's got the red stripe right at the top of the neck for the separation plane, for saucer separation? Does this mean that has saucer separation, but like very close to the secondary hull? I think it does. And that can be the third landing strut because we know the 2 eyebrows are the other 2.
Oh dear.
Hey,
Yep.
that's a great place to put the Enterprise banner. I think that looks cool, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, how much do cars look like what they did 20 years ago? There are iteration designs in cars, and there are reinventions. I mean,
But they all have 4 wheels and an engine and a compartment to sit in. They're basic same configuration. So
yeah. But the next picture, to continue this theme, I did a top view because it's always good to compare the different aspects. And again, what do you see? I mean, what's your take on this?
Again, my issues with this, you can see that the secondary or the deflector in the saucer is now gone. As I was just kind of saying, it's been moved. No need for deflector control and all that stuff in the saucer. The engines are a little bit far away from the saucer. And again, I think straightening out those struts, very much like the TOS Enterprise, would solve that problem. It makes it look a little bit longer and a little bit more gangly. It doesn't look as... I don't know. It looks a little bit weaker design almost, but it works. Don't get me wrong. But I think, yeah, that's basically what I see. And I like the Impulse Crystal. That's a great addition.
Yeah, if you look at that top bit, I mean, that... Although, is that the Impulse Crystal from the NX? The bottom one? Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? I was thinking they might have just taken a refit top and just photoshopped it. But is that actually the crystal from the NX? I mean, yeah, it is. I think they've just used the same element, which is clever. I mean, that's what feels... I mean, it's not the same piece of technology, but it's close. I do like the NX is still... It's still the same bridge module, but a larger neck element, goes all the way back and yeah. And I like the extra detailing. I mean, I mean, this would look, I think, pretty great flying through space.
I would love to see a 3D model of this doing its thing.
With all the extra detailing and just like... Because it feels like a retro Constitution class, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, imagine if this was the ship from Enterprise. I mean, it would be a bit strange that we didn't iterate over 100 years. But I think fans would say, wow, it looks more advanced. But does it? Look how many plates. Look how basic it looks. I mean, it's pretty clearly less advanced, I think
we'd have a smaller crew, too. Probably rely more on big, bulky machinery. Because, everything's scaled down technology-wise. So, yeah, I do. And even the smaller registry number works for me. I think it's a great... Whoever did it's a fantastic... designer because it looks very
/ Photoshopper.
Yes. Well, you have to design it too. So
it's true. It's true.
All right, so let's go to the next picture. This is them from the front, which is nice. One thing I do find odd too about this design is the fact that it's not a round secondary hull, but I think they're tying that into the NX refit design there, where it's more of a ovoid shape. But I do like how the sensor dish is kind of pushed back and looks more integrated and not sticking out as much as the TOS one. So
kind of like the NXs, the first versions.
Yeah.
Although it's interesting actually when you look at it like this, it is very much an evolution. Like it's kind of surprising how much of an evolution it is. No secondary hull very close to it, pushing it down neck, pushing it down again, even more neck, even bigger secondary, even bigger. Like it's actually super clear. Actually, that's a great view. I really like that.
One thing that strikes me right away is basically exactly the same as the NX01 nacelles, but twice the size, which would suggest to me bigger warp coils, higher speeds. So I have no problem with that at all. Even the side profile, the side detailing looked a little bit different on this one compared to the NX01. If we go back and take a look at that. So, yeah, I think this all works for me. Although it is much more squat than the TOS Enterprise, which I don't know if I like or not. I think
it's only got a single deck in the saucer. The Constitution class meant to have 2.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's the natural progression, I guess.
Yeah, I think they both look fantastic from the front, but I'm not sure which one I like more. And that's rough because if something is, if I have a TOS Enterprise in front of me and I'm looking at something else going, I don't know which one I like more, I think that says something. This is a nice design.
Yeah, it's a very squat view, but it's a nice. When you look at it like this, the evolution, it's so natural that squatness makes a lot of sense. It's just pushing further technology. Everything's just neater, and then, like I said, reinvention. Yeah, very neat. But the next picture is something that you found, Stuart, and talk to us about this.
Well, this is the Confederation class, which was done for Star Trek Legacy.
Mm-hmm. By our friend Max Loaf. Of course it was.
Yeah.
Of
course. It's slightly different than the one we've been looking at. Kind of more beefed up struts, and it's actually got an NX-01 hull. There's a picture next that shows the top of the hull, and it's the exact same details on it. But again, this one's not quite as pretty. To me, this is more like purpose-built one. The other one is, I don't know, it's a little more refined, a little bit nicer to look at. This one's much more utilitarian, I think.
Yeah, this is very much, we have NX sources, let's make secondary hulls for it. Let's beef up the ability of the NX class, rather than next iteration. Which is not a bad thing, don't by any means. I kind of like how big the deflector is, and the nacelles I quite like. They're a nice in-between step with the aft fins, and just the whole thing being coils, which is very in your face, which I kind of like. And then also the cage spikes, which is a very, very nice touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like the fact they got rid of the deflector in the saucer section instead of keeping it. Because I've seen versions, too, over the years where they've kept both. Which, sure, I guess. There's secondary deflectors on, like, the Intrepid class and stuff. But really, do you need that? Yeah. So let's go to the next picture. And here we can really see that it's just essentially the NX-01 saucer. I actually like that shape on top that Doug did. That looks like a hood scoop almost for a car. This view looks a lot better than the underside view, but you can tell those struts are a lot thicker than the ones that we started looking at. So
higher warp speeds, bigger struts. That's what happens. Yeah.
Yes.
The future.
So yeah. I don't know. One change I would probably make as well. I would like to see the outer surface of the nacelle to be closed in, very like TOS style. I think that might.
Well, that's the Confederation class refit.
Gotcha. I haven't got that paperwork yet, apparently.
No, it's very, 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 very new.
Okay.
Let's go to the next picture, which is the first picture, which is the last picture of this class we're looking at. Just a fun one that I've now seen for 2 years, I guess, since Doug pointed me in her direction anyway. This is literally the only pictures of it, so there's not too much to talk about, but an interesting step, and I'd like to see this. If someone wants to make the 3D model, do.
Absolutely. I would, like I said, I'd love to see this thing in motion. Because seeing them in motion really changes the experience for a lot of ships. So. And
wouldn't it be cool if someone did, hint, hint, and then we could do a Trekyards original on it and help to flesh out its details and why it was built, its in-between step? How cool would that be?
This would be a nice advance, like a nice step towards the JJ Enterprise, I think. Because they build this, and then all of a sudden the Narada attacks, and hey, let's beef this up and just make something totally brand new, size it up, and then boom.
Okay.
For me, this is the JJ version, the JJ verse Connie. There you go. I don't know. I just came up with that.
Some dangerous waters there, Stuart. You're going some.
Swimming.
Just keep
swim in the dangerous
mate.
waters. I tend to do that sometimes.
And that is it for this day's TOS Connie special. You guys have enjoyed this look at a fun ship. If you want to comment, please do. Tell us what you think of the ship. And what else can they do, Stuart, to help the show?
Well, of course, you can go visit Trekyards.com, and there's that donate button there. If you want to click it and help us out with a one-time donation, please feel free to do that. Anything helps. We also have a Patreon link in the description below. It takes us to our Patreon page, and there you can help us out on a monthly basis. And we've got a lot of great Patreon donors that are amazing, and they really are the life force of Trekyards, because they help us keep going, and we appreciate every one of them.
Yeah, they help us keep the lights on for all of you guys to watch us on a weekly basis. And again, happy 200, Stuart. We made it. Can't believe it's been that long. Wow, that's so many episodes. Here's to 200 more. We've done a lot of Connies this week, okay? I'm a little bit tired.
It's true, yes.
Anyway.
Thank you guys for helping us get to 200. But until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Commander Cockins.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.